And on Sunday mornings, we ask you ministers and other religious professionals, leaders from social justice organizations, and our own members to be voices of hope, courage, and spiritual or intellectual transformation from our pulpit. Our worship leader today is a guest from kind of down south of New Orleans, or down south and west, and that is Christine Verdin, council member of the Pointe Au Chien Indian tribe. And Christine is going to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name's Christine Verdin. I identify as she, her. I am a member of our tribal council in down Pointe Au Chien, and I'm here to speak to you about our community today. And thank you for inviting me.
With that, we will, I'll ask you to please rise in body or spirit as we light the chalice of our heritage, and join me in reading the words that you find on your order of service, and then join in on our sung response. Drawn together. We come together every week, bound not by creed or by mutual desire to please one God or many gods. Yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change this world.
Rekindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
And if you'll remain as you are, please, and open your gray hymnals to number 38 for our opening hymn, Morning Has Broken.
Hello. Okay, great. Good morning. I am Katie Gelfand, the Director of Religious Exploration with executive responsibilities. Ooh, important. And my pronouns are she and her. And I'd like to invite any young at hearts to join me on the carpet circles or on these nice little cushions if you'd like to see the pictures of this incredibly beautiful book more clearly. Y'all know I'm a sucker for kids' books with beautiful illustrations. And I hear one day we'll have a screen and everybody will be able to see the pictures. But also, I'll leave the book here. So if y'all want to come look at it during coffee hour, you can, because they really are so pretty and so detailed. Good morning, welcome. Oh, I love my young at hearts, it's so nice. This is a book called Be a Good Ancestor, and it's about being a living ancestor. It's about how we engage with the communities that we belong to, including animals and nature, and our responsibility to those communities, and how everything that we do has a ripple effect. So, Be a Good Ancestor by Leona Prince and Gabrielle Prince, they're sisters, and illustrated by Carla Joseph. Okay. Be a good ancestor with water. Raindrops become puddles, puddles become streams, streams become rivers, and rivers become life. Be a good ancestor with the land. Seeds become seedlings, seedlings become trees, trees become forests, and forests become oxygen. Be a good ancestor with living things that fly. Eggs become hatchlings, hatchlings become fledglings, fledglings become eagles, and eagles become iconic. Be a good ancestor with living things that swim. Eggs become fry, fry become alevins, alevins become sockeyes, and sockeyes become nourishment. There's a bear eating the salmon. Yum, 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 yum. Be a good ancestor with living things that walk. Newborns become cubs, cubs become young bears become grizzlies, and grizzlies become balance. Be a good ancestor with your neighbors. Neighbors become friends, friends become communities, communities become nations, and nations become allies. Be a good ancestor with your thoughts. Thoughts become ideas. Ideas become actions. Actions become movements. And movements become change. Be a good ancestor with your words. Words become expressions. Expressions become stories. Stories become narratives. And narratives become truth. Be a good ancestor with your feelings. Feelings become compassion. Compassion becomes understanding. Understanding becomes beliefs. And beliefs become values. Be a good ancestor with yourself. Children become adults. Adults become leaders. Leaders become elders. And elders become ancestors. I hope this will inspire us all to be good ancestors. Thank you.
This is our time for reflection. We'll have a couple of words. We'll have a moment to call people's names. Then I will read a poem, and then we'll have 2 minutes of silence, at the end of which Dwayne will bring us back in and we'll sing our meditation hymn. So to start with the calling of names, I want to tell you that we are still holding in our hearts Robert, who lost his brother week before last. I know that's been hard. He was caring for his brother for many years. And you'll need to know that Veronica Young lost her daughter yesterday. She announced it last week, and her daughter, Mary Catherine Bell Apatini, I believe, passed yesterday. So you'll want to hold Veronica in your hearts. And you'll want to hold Kathy Hubble in your heart, because Kathy fell yesterday at the Christmas tree sale and broke her nose. Margot was on hand and helped her, and Jean Bernard, and the rest of us helped as we could. She's resting quietly at home, but keep her in your thoughts and maybe text her. I don't know if she's ready to talk on the phone or not. So if anyone else, I'll let you raise names as you will. This poem is by Joy Harjo. Joy Harjo is the current U.S. Poet Laureate. She is a native of Native American heritage from the Muskogee Creek Nation. And the poem is Eagle Poem. To pray, you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you, and know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing and in languages that aren't always sound but other circles of motion, like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, in wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born, and die soon within a true circle of motion, like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. I have a reading for you this morning by another Native American writer, Leslie Marmon Silko of Laguna Pueblo heritage. She grew up grew up on the edge of the reservation in Arizona and attended school there to the 5th grade at the reservation school. And this excerpt is from her 1977 novel, Ceremony, which I highly recommend. It's in the voice of a character. I will tell you something about stories, he said. They aren't just entertainment. Don't be fooled. They're all we have, you see, all we have to fight off illness and death. You don't have anything if you don't have the stories. Their evil is mighty, but it can't stand up to our stories. So they try to destroy the stories, but the stories cannot be confused or forgotten. They would like that. They would be happy because we would be defenseless then. He rubs his belly. I keep it in here, he said. Here, put your hand on it. See, it is moving.
I feel too tall up here. So again, my name's Christine Verdin. I'm going to begin by, well, first of all, Jody is the one who reached out to me. Thank you. And then later on, I met Ann and Beverly and and Linda, just through phone calls and emails. And I really appreciate them reaching out to us. They know the devastation our community went through after Ida. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to kind of give you a little bit background on our tribe. So we live in Pointe Au Chien, which is at the end of the world. And when I speak to people who might not know exactly where that is, we're about 60 miles southwest of here. Most people know where Houma is, and so I use my hand to kind of give you an idea of what our community is. So like Houma, if you imagine Houma is my hand, and there are 5 bayous that branch off of Houma. There's a Bayou Delarge, Bayou Grand Caillou, Bayou Little Caillou, Montague, and Pointe Au Chien. But where we are, half of our community is on Terrebonne side, and the other half is on Lafourche side. And that becomes an issue with us as far as like local government. We're divided by the Pointe Au Chien Bayou, and we're at the end of the world. And another thing I describe with my hands and the bayous are that a long time ago, Houma is made of more like Cajuns and Indians, but the Indians were all settled at the tip of each bayou. So we are at the end. The Gulf of Mexico is now our backyard because there's no land protecting us. Last Island's gone, Timberlake Island. We have the Barataria area there. And your book was just hit on the spot because that is what's happening in our area, especially with, you talk about the waters and the land, and we're losing land every day. So a little bit background about my tribe. We've been there since as far back as maybe like the 1600s, 1500s. Our people, so we are a French-speaking community. Our French people kind of I would mistake us for the Cajun French, but we're not. We're Indian French. Our people intermarried with the French, and that's where our French comes from people coming into New Orleans area, this area here of Gulf of Mexico and our people marrying in. And our ancestor, who was half Indian, half French, he was a sugarcane farmer in Pointe Au Chien, and we had all this land at that time, dry land, where you could have acres of sugarcane farm, and he would harvest and barge it to New Orleans with no motor on his barge. So we settled there. People settled there. We've been there forever, and we've been through many storms. And as a little girl, the first storm I remember is Betsy. I was 2 years old at that time. And I remember my mom was in the hospital, and my dad took us to my aunt's house, and the windows blew out. And then we had Andrew, and you had Katrina, we had Rita, and same with Ike, we had Gustav. And our people were used to, well, first of all, our homes were on the ground years ago. It didn't flood because we had land everywhere, and we had the islands that were buffers before the waves hit us. And then as time went on, growing up, I had water many times in my home, and we just clean up. This hurricane, however, was different. So through the years with the flooding, the government asked the people down there, not just my community, any community down the bayou, to raise their homes. So they raised homes, but they raised homes that were old homes. So when Ida hit, our homes down the bayou were old. They were way up in the air, 12 to 18 feet, and the wind gusts hit us bad. So when we came back into the community the day after a hurricane, there were only 9 homes habitable. All the other homes either weren't there or they had substantial damage. But a little bit of background about us. So we're native, and we're down the bayou. And growing up, we had no one to educate us. Even when public school system began, we had no schools. They had schools because at that time, you weren't integrated. It was still segregated. And so we had the public school system offered schools for the whites and the African Americans, but nothing for the Indian community because we're so remote. So the first education we had was started by a Catholic church that didn't last long, maybe a year or two, and then later on, Southern Baptist Convention sent missionaries, and you have to remember that we only spoke French. And we weren't educated. So the missionaries who came to start the church there came from like the Acadiana area around Eunice and Pineville, around that area, because they spoke French as well. And those were the first people who came and stayed, started a school. My parents were educated by missionaries, and then later on, Lafourche Parish took over the school, but it was on Terrebonne side. So they took over the school and started a school, one school room, and it went up to 8th grade. And then we integrated when I was in 1st grade. I was 6 years old, and we integrated to the white school Upper Pointe Au Chien. And our community was also segregated because the Pointe Au Chien is about 10 miles long, and the Indian community is about 3 miles at the end, towards the end. And an extension of us was the island people. Ile de Jean Charles lived right off of us, and they're the community, Indian community that recently relocated up in Home, the Gray area, which is 40 minutes from their community. Very difficult because we're fishermen, shrimpers, oystermen, crabbers, and you don't have that in Homa. But they had no choice, some of them. Currently, there are 4 families that live on the island because they are not in the Morganza to the Gulf levee system, which is very unfortunate because their place is really almost abandoned. And our community, we're in the Morganza to the Gulf, but after the storm, we had no help from our local government or state or federal. It took weeks for them to come in and help us. I started a PowerPoint. I didn't put it on a flash drive, but I have pictures. And if you look at our Facebook page or our website, you will probably see some of the photos we took coming back after the storm. People couldn't stay there. We couldn't stay there, so people would come in during the day and do what they could do and then go back. So it was a hardship because they had to live away from their community and come in and out. And it kind of, this hurricane kind of reminded me of Katrina. Katrina was 20 years ago, just about. And I was at home at that time with my daughter, watching the news at that time. And it was surreal, just like this hurricane was to us. Hard to imagine what we came back to, same as people here with Katrina. So currently, though, because I don't want to go over, but currently we have, our homes have been built by nonprofits. 2 have been built by state government through LA Restore. 2 in our community have been built with them, but the other homes have been built through nonprofits who have raised funds to buy materials. And then we have the Amish, Mennonites, and a Christian group that are building. They're giving their time, donating their time to build homes. We have 4 currently under construction, but we still have probably about, I'm thinking 6 to go. So these are people who are currently still in FEMA homes or living with relatives. The other homes have been with family, materials given. They've fixed their own homes. But the ones who are completely destroyed, we probably had, I'm thinking about 20 that were completely destroyed. But everyone is back in Pointe Au Chien. We were without electricity and water, which was worse than being without electricity, for 21 days, even where I live, because it didn't just hit, Ida didn't just hit us. It hit, everything coming through. Lafourche, Houma, everything from here to there, where I live, to here. So a lot of things were destroyed, and we still have homes that people just decided that they weren't coming back, and that's an issue that we've had in the past. For each storm, people leave. Some come back, some don't. And another thing that is going on in my community is that the people are getting older. Young kids are not staying. Different reasons. So my community on the Lafourche side is ancestral land. No one owns that land. People, relatives, just homestead on that property. On the Terrebonne side, where I grew up, my parents are from Lafourche side, but they built a house on Terrebonne. That property does sell. People own it. But what we've seen a lot of is outsiders coming in and building camps. For example, after the storm, most of our homes were destroyed. Well, people at camps have a lot of money. And so they have homes where the camps are built better, with better material, reinforced. So when there are very few camps that were destroyed, or none were destroyed, but like damaged. And those people were back in there. And it's kind of like, not that we don't welcome people in our community, but we don't want our community to be, like Chief Albert said, for weekend warriors, because that is our community. We live there. We share our waters. We have great fishing and crabbing, and we welcome anyone who wants to come and fish and crab and bring it home. But what happens is those kind of homes or camps bring up the property taxes for people around that live there, and our people are fishermen, so they don't have much money, and that's another reason that we had issues there, because people did not have insurance. Insurance there, like here, is very expensive. Even if they're 14 feet off the ground, they still have to carry flood insurance, which is, we feel like, doesn't make sense. If water comes 14 feet to their homes, then we're really in trouble. But just things like that. And another example is the homes that are being built, especially through LA Restore. Those people have to have insurance, and then they have to pay their own property taxes. So that book is a lot like our community is. We're not wasteful. We tell stories. Our stories are from our ancestors. So things that I learned, that I know about my tribe, comes from stories, because our people didn't write. We only had oral language. We had French. Even when the missionaries started the school, most people learned to read, just read to be able to get by, and write, but most of them would not pick up a book to read. In the 1900s, oil field companies realized that we had oil down where I live, and we can't do anything with oil, but what happened was, too, because our people were illiterate, they didn't read or write, they signed their names with an X. They were told that these companies were telling them that they were leasing property, so to let them come onto the land, but when it went to court, the paperwork was they were selling. And so we lost a lot of our ancestral land because of that. So it's been a challenge, but when asked if we are going to relocate because of the issues we're going through, our people down Pointe Au Chien will say no, we'll stay there. We'll stay there until water comes and we're in pirogues, visiting each other, which we've done, because growing up, I would visit people with my dad in a boat. They lived out in a place called Fala, and we'd visit. We visited several families like that. As the people got older, the kids didn't stay there, so no one lives there, but we're used to challenges. Ida was by far the biggest challenge we had to face. It was the first time ever that everyone in my community left. Before that, most of the men would stay, but they all left. They didn't go far, but they left. It was the first time that I saw elders in my community show distress, hopelessness, I want to say, and being together, a community being together is like a church. You have each other to for comfort, encouragement, listening, and we had two places in our community that allowed us to do that. One was the church, the Baptist church, and the other was our tribal center. And so people had a place to, because they had no home, they had no bathroom, they didn't have anything, and both these, both the church and our tribal center is where it was a hub for people to bring things, and I must say that people everywhere, especially from New Orleans, brought a lot of supplies to our community. Food, gas, because gas, even if you have a gas generator, we are 30 miles from Houma, where they had gas. So people had to ration gas. You had to leave your place 30 miles to go get gas and come back, so you're wasting gas. So people brought gasoline, they brought food, they brought supplies. We partner with 3 different professors at Tulane. Now we've had more, and their kids do community service. We've been doing that with them for years. And those kids usually do, like for example, they would do research for us, because our research, we are currently petitioning for federal recognition through the federal government, through the BIA. And so these kids do that kind of work for us. And that summer, we had everything ready for them to come in and do their service projects with us. And when the storm hit, professors were calling us and say, what can we do? So the kids, instead of doing something that was joyful, they just came anyway and helped clean homes. You think about freezers that were full of stuff, the smell. They just came and, without thinking, came and helped several, probably all of September and October. They were down in Pointe Au Chien. And prior to that, when they would come in, and help us, we would have food for them. But there was nothing, and they still came, just giving of themselves to help us. I will say that we had a lot of help in that sense from so many organizations. Now we're facing rebuilding, because even if the men, the Amish, the Mennonites, the Christian group, they're building, they cannot finance the materials. So we've written a few grants to help, which has helped a lot. But as far as with the government, we've gotten 2 homes. So that's where we're at this point. They're working on 5 homes, and hopefully everyone will be back in either a home that's been rebuilt or one that has been repaired, but we're still not there. I want to say too, like we talked about doing, talking to the people down there. We talked about the difference in wind and flood, and by far, probably 90% of the people there have said that we would rather have water in our home and clean up than have no home at all to come back to. But we have a lot of faith, and we're going to keep, like this story says, we're going to keep telling stories, handed down from our ancestors, and hopefully be down there for a very long time. And two, like I have lots of relatives. My mom's family, half of them are in St. Bernard. But if you think about it, you're coming from Pointe Au Chien, who's on the Gulf, and St. Bernard is basically the same place. And they're there because they were trappers, fishermen, trawlers, and that's where they ended up settling. And they went through the same thing that we're going through with Katrina. But I really appreciate you inviting me here, and please look at our website, and I want to say another thing. So during all this time, our school closed down. The same year the storm came, the May before that, in 2021, they closed our school because of enrollment. And prior to that, we had petitioned the school board to open a French immersion school because we're losing our language. The young people are not learning it, and it's people like me who still speak fluent French, and we were denied twice by them. And then after the storm, we decided that we were going to, because they closed the school, ask them to give us the school. And at first, they would not. But last October 2023, the school board donated the school to us. And so we're currently working. We opened our school last year, August 2023, with two grade levels, K and first. And we currently have pre-K through second. And through legislature, we were able to open the school, and we're hoping to go through 6th grade. So we're working to repair our school so that we can be back in the original Pointe Au Chien Elementary School someday. And they needed someone who spoke fluent French to run the school, and I kind of got roped into that, so that's my other job. Yes. I was just going to ask you to tell us about the school. Yes, so the school is where I started in 1st grade speaking only French. So I have a lot of Cajun French friends, and my Cajun friends don't speak French, and I always tell them that it's because their parents were allowed to go to school, and the Cajuns were punished for speaking French, and so they were able to go to school long before we were. And then I think that it's not right, but being in a community that only spoke French, and we were allowed to go to the white school, but we were punished as well. But what kept our language is when we went back into our community, no one else spoke English. So we had no choice but to speak French. And I think that that's why our tribe still speaks predominantly French. If you come to our meetings or if you come in the community, people will be speaking French to you. But we could see that it was a dying language, and that's the reason we petitioned the school board first to open a French immersion school in Pointe Au Chien, and they didn't. So when the school was closed in May, the hurricane hit in August, and then when we went to talk to them about giving the school, because otherwise nothing was going to happen with the school. And I know this school, and I went through another closing of a school at Boudreaux Canal, which is going towards Cocodrie. Well, they closed us down probably about 10 years ago. So that school is just vacant. And the issue is when these schools are built on leased property, the people who own the property will just give it to the school board to use, but there's a stipulation that it can only be used for educational purposes. So they can't sell it, they can't let anyone else use it. And so when we went to them with that, I think that that's why they agreed to give it to us for $1. So when we opened the school, well, we went through legislature, and we had a young guy from here who had already contacted us after the closing of school, because we protested not to close it, but it didn't help. And he really got interested in the community, the tribe, and so we got together and started meeting with our representatives, our senators, and promoting a French immersion school, which later on went on to the Senate and was voted unanimously to open it. And then the House as well, owned by the Catholic Church, was ready. And we acquired that building because one of our tribal members was a member of the KC group, and they could not fix it. The roof blew off, so they gave it to the tribe, and then we put the roof on it, a new roof, and then later on, our school foundation paid to have it renovated, and that's where we are currently. We had 3 classrooms, and then we had to make our kitchen into a classroom as well. So our school is supposed to be ready in August. If not, we might be meeting back at a church, because we are adding another grade level, 3rd grade. We're going to add next year to our school. We started with 9 students last year, and this year we started with 35, but we've lost a few, so we're growing some. Yes, thank you. So we'll see, and our teachers come from France. Last year I only needed 1 teacher. This year I have 3. Next year, I'll have to add another one. And the one thing that we are different than the other French immersion schools is that we also teach our French, our Indian French, Cajun French. The school's open to anyone, but our French is, the kids are learning to write and read in the universal French, but in the language, we bring in our French, because there are some words that are different, and as we go, we see that there are more words. And it's funny because when my teachers are teaching, they'll say, Miss Christine, what do you all say for this? And one day I was telling my French teacher last year, he said, what do you say for boys? I said, we say garçon. We said boug, tiboug, and he says, I've never heard that. And every Sunday he would call his mom. So on a Monday he came back, he said, I asked my mom about boug, and she said, well, that's what my grandma says. And it's because our French has never evolved to the modern French. Things progressed, it changed, but because we don't know that, we don't change. So like some of the words we use, like grandmas, grandpas in France use those words, and not the younger people. But we decided to do this because when the kids go back home to speak to their grandparents, some of my kids' parents do speak French, then they can communicate. If they go home and they say, you have in French, like you have a red car, we don't say car. We don't say a voiture, like the proper French, real French, whatever. We say a char. And that's what, and they tell me where it's probably originated, but if they say voiture to their grandparents, they will not know what that is. And then we say chevrette, they say covrette. Let's see what else. There are several things that are different. They say wawaron, yes. We say machouin, because we